This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your
a very
day.
good morning to you, and how are you doing? It's 3 minutes after 6 a.m. on this lovely Tuesday, 11th day of May 2021. How are you doing? Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Ndu Oko, habari?
Mzuri sana. Habari yako?
Nzuri sana.
Meshindaje?
Jana nilishinda salama, nimelala salama pia.
Very good.
Umeamkaje wewe?
Salama kabisa.
Very good. Bwana Muga,
Kaka,
ujambo?
nipo.
Vidze.
Very good indeed. I was trying to think of the Giriama comeback to that one, and I'm not quite certain what it is. And I don't want to make a boo-boo on radio. So I will just stick to Kiswahili. Mimi iko msima.
Uko salama?
Yes.
Right. Vidze mtumia. Haya, watatuambia how you respond to that.
In good due course tutaambiwa.
Wagiriama watatuambia when you say vidze.
Yes, how do you respond?
And then there's another one, kala something. Kalamka.
Yes. There is actually, it is the greeting is a lengthy discourse. Okay? It starts with Uliamkaje, of course in Giriama, and I woke up well, and then you continue for something like around 3 or 4 sentences later, then the greeting is over.
Okay.
So it's not the short format. Hi. See you.
It's not hello.
Jambo. It's not even jambo.
Muga.
Uko mzima.
Wazungu ati. Ndio. And that's enough. That's a greeting.
That's a greeting.
They nod their head or doff their hats, you know.
Why do you think it is they have so many problems?
Because they don't greet each other properly.
Yes.
Yes, that's the problem.
Us, we don't have problems. No. Hunger is just a relative that visits us from time to time, like drought and rain and so forth. Them, they have many issues. Many issues.
Maybe that's why they don't have time for greetings, because they have issues to deal with.
Yes, you would think...
I've seen you, you look fine. Good.
It is
Are you okay?
I don't really want to know
Just
more
confirm.
about it.
Are you fine?
But ask
Yes, I'm
yourself
fine.
the simple
Move on.
question. Hiyo haraka yote ni ya nini jamani?
Haraka haraka haina baraka bwana.
Yes. You've heard the version that supposedly...
You're saying haraka haraka haina baraka. Them they're saying make hay while the sun still shines.
Well, that's the problem with hay. We don't have a problem with either sunshine or hay. We have plenty of sunshine, plenty of hay. So this makes hay while the sun shines. Hatuna upungufu.
Yeah, the sun constantly shines.
Even when it's raining, it shines.
Okay.
Even when it's shining, it's raining.
It rains, it shines. Welcome to the Situation Room, everybody, this morning. Yeah, as you would expect, the headlines everywhere are about yesterday's exam results that were released, KCSE exam results, celebrating those that performed highly, and also looking at the odd stories. Somebody who, maybe did not perform so well in Form 4 and how then they've performed in in Standard 8 and how they've performed in 4th Form. Schools that were not so good in the previous exam results, now they have improved, all those things. And then there's a whole conversation about ranking. There was a time when the results used to come out like, these are the top 10 students, these are the top 10 schools, these are the top 10 districts. We stopped with that. We just now talk about the top 10 students and then look at how they've performed. and the ranking of schools stopped as a policy by the Ministry of Education for several reasons. It's still a conversation, though. People are still asking, so no, you tell us, but we want to know which school is doing well. We'll have that conversation this morning and ask ourselves, does it make sense? Does it make sense to rank schools or even ranking the students? What does it do? What benefit does it have? There's some more conversations coming up. COVID-19 as well. So, we've heard from Dennis Aseto in the news bulletin. We recorded the lowest positivity rate yesterday.
Yes, the lowest positivity rate in the last about 2.5 months. And during the second wave, during the third wave, this is the lowest number with 66 cases recorded from a sample size of 1,833. This was reported yesterday. These were those samples that were collected over the weekend. Takes total confirmed number of cases in Kenya is 163,620. All right, so looking at really, really low numbers from yesterday, 3.6 is what it is. Encouraged to have a positivity rate of below 5% is what the world wants us to do.
It always amazes me. Look, so our positivity rate in about, 2-3 weeks ago was north of 10%.
It was 17%, 18.6.
And then you want to tell me that the measures that were put in place of people not sitting down to dine at restaurants, of being required to be at home by 8 p.m., and of not traveling outside these 5 counties actually reduced this spread of the virus this much and so soon?
It's difficult to comprehend. Because the truth be told, we did not have total non-movement in the country. There wasn't anything that you would look at and say that, all right, it's clear that we're not moving this thing at all. There was still significant movement. Even with these measures put in place, we still had areas where people were not doing or what they were required to do. So you want to ask yourself, is it that at that time there was high prevalence and then it significantly reduced? Certain people were sick at a particular time and that did not carry over? Or are we looking at a reoccurrence of this? In a short time like that, in 4 weeks, to see the number drop quite a number of percentage points.
It's a significant drop.
It's a significant drop, it is.
Because on the one hand, if actually that is what has happened, if we can say that just those few measures that were taken reduced the spread of the virus that much, then you can say, if you actually lock it down
you can get rid of it.
Completely lock it down for 2 weeks.
But
You reduce its virility.
But there's evidence to support that.
There is.
And plenty of evidence to support it. And there's evidence that has supported the contrary. When you let loose and let everyone just do what they will,
it's going to spread.
You can actually predict it. It's something that epidemiologists have understood, and they can tell you, this is what's going to happen, it's going to peak, and it happens exactly as they tell you.
And it has happened. We're not dealing with something that we don't know of. And we go again to look at those countries that actually got it right. New Zealand, for example, shut things down completely. China shut things down. China shut down the entire country. They shut down provinces initially, and there was no movement. It looked like ghost towns. You couldn't leave your house. And what did they do? They actually saw that they could stop it from moving. They did not record one positive case over 21 days. So there's a formula for this thing. It's scientific and it works.
And the other countries that did the same thing. If you look at even Japan, I'm talking about the South Asian countries, you're looking at Vietnam. You see, the idea of shutting down is an anathema. It's something that people are uncomfortable with. They don't want to appear like they're limiting people's rights. But then are you also allowing people to actually practice euthanasia? Because if you do not prevent them from dying, you are allowing them to kill themselves when you know full well what this thing can possibly do. Not everyone will die. Many people will be infected, will not even know they're infected. But there are deaths that are needless. There are people who did not need to have died.
Very true.
So this crazy idea then, how much money is being spent by very many countries around the world on very many other efforts like, vaccine research, rollout of vaccine, production of vaccine. How about if that money was actually used to say, let's support everybody, lock down the world for 2 weeks?
Ideally, it
Like just
would.
say, okay,
it
so
would
who
work.
requires food here? Between 1st of May and the 20th of May, everybody in the world stay indoors. Hospitals deal with those that you have, blah, 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 come out.
Yeah.
So you only have now very few cases that you're dealing with, and you can isolate those ones globally as a unit, isolate them, deal with the virus.
Ideally, it would work. Sure, the mechanics would just be crazy, though, in terms of how it would happen. But that is the idea that you'd want to go with, for sure.
Well, actually, it sounds utopian, but if you consider that the country with the largest population in the world did it, that's an indication that it can be
work.
done. And the results are evident.
Yeah. And they did
They're clear.
exact same things that you're talking about. You cannot come out of your home. Even you say you want food, we will bring the food to you, and only a specific number of people then are allowed to move. And even if they do, they're heavily protected. Nobody in the streets, nobody going to work. Can you work? We will make sure that those provisions are made for you. We will monitor so much so that we know that if you opened your front door. And this is what they did. They brought food to the doors of people. They brought medicine, medical supplies. They brought it to your door. They shut down the country, and it worked.
Eric, the question that you asked, I am particularly enthralled by it because to meet economic goals and to retain a certain hold that people have on others around the world, there are people who dump food every single year.
Yep.
Just to stabilize markets.
Yep.
They dump tons and tons and thousands of tons of food. Now, you tell me, which means, even as we speak now, there are countries who have produced more food than they need. It is really very possible for the world to be fed. It is possible. And it will not be a strain.
No, it won't.
Look at the effort that was made with regards to India and how instantly countries just said, no, we need to help India. And we saw what they did. So, when you're then told Chad had not even received even a fraction of a vaccine.
You ask yourself why. You ask yourself really, really why. Any top story, like big story that we need to look at before we take this weather break?
Well, no, still looking at stories that are developing. The India issue. France calls on the US to drop vaccine export bans. That's one that the French president has talked to the US and asked them to. So he spoke out basically after the US backed a proposal to waive patents on COVID-19 vaccines. So everybody's weighing in. Vaccine nationalism is still a big issue here. And the geopolitics that surround vaccines, their production, exports, all of this is still a big story.
You know what I found interesting with that conversation? WTO appealing to member states, telling them, guys, could you please relax? The same member states who have the ability to actually reduce patents are also appealing to other member states. Guys, could you please reduce this? I'm thinking, what on earth are you talking about? Why don't you just take the step? Germany said
They're
no.
doing a dance.
Yes.
Yeah, Germany said no. That's not the issue. That's not the important bit. Biden is saying things left, right, and center. Now France is calling on the US.
See, that's what I mean.
Okay. 16 minutes after 6, Kenya's biggest conversation is live streaming on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. If you're online, say hello. We'll want to say hello back at you. And even if you're not able to say hello, we appreciate the fact that you're tuned in this morning on your radio or on your mobile devices. Good morning.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
It's time to answer questions that are worthwhile. The Big Quiz Show is here. Register to play from the comfort of your home by SMSing the word JOIN to 23774. Then watch the live show on KTN every Sunday from 8 p.m. where you could have a chance to win a mealie. The fastest and most accurate answers are guaranteed to win. The Big Quiz Show, Sundays at 8 p.m. only on KTN.
The weather.
All right,
with Spice
still
FM.
mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. It's sprinkling in some parts of the city. Highs of 22 and lows of 16. Rain showers in Nyeri at 15, highs of 21, lows of 15. 22 will be the high in Nakuru today. It's raining slightly in this morning at 16 degrees. It'll come down to lows of 14. Highs of 20 in Eldoret, rain showers at 13. 18 degrees and mostly cloudy in Kisumu, highs of 25. It's lightly raining in Kakamega as well this morning. 23 the high and lows of 15. We'll see highs of 30 in Mombasa, where it's clear at 25. It's clear in Malindi at 27, highs of 30 and lows of 27. Mostly clear conditions stepping out of Kenya into Kampala, highs of 24 and lows of 17. Dar es Salaam. Mostly clear conditions this morning at 22, highs of 31. And it's clear in Johannesburg at 10, highs of 23 and lows of 9. And mostly clear conditions in Lagos at 25. We've got highs of 32 and lows of 26. It's mostly clear in Kinshasa this morning at 23. See highs of 32 today. Beijing is warming up still. We've got highs of 24 today and lows of 10. Sunny conditions going into afternoon today. Clear conditions at 9 in Paris, highs of 16 and lows of 8. 9 in London and clear, highs of 16 and lows of 9. And it's still Monday night in New York. Coming into Tuesday, it's going to be clear. It's right now clear at 12. It'll go into highs of 16 and lows of 9 today.
Spice FM. Spice up your life.
All right, it's 20 minutes after 6. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Many people online and saying hello this morning.
For sure. All right. This is Sir Haran, and he says, good morning, guys. Kisumu's tuned in. Have a wonderful day to you too, brother. Simon Villa tuned in from Ole Kasasi, and he's headed to school. Well, okay. Bay Wamacha, rather, tuned in this morning from where else? Machakos. And Charity Minor tuned in from Milimani Estate in Nakuru. Alex Mbogo is tuned in from Nyeri with his wife, Mama Jason. To you. And good morning from Lanette. That's where Robert Kirago is tuned in from. And Jose Jays is tuned in from Nakuru as well. Ju just tuned in. He says, my team, before budget, I pray to visit. Pass my 2 cents to our CS of Finance. Thanks for the awesome response. Okay. Cyprian Mora Mwambaje. What's up?
Mwambaje.
Okay. Always a pleasure tuning in to Biggest Radio Conversation in the 254, listening from Nakuru County, from Namuela Ward, Sirisia County constituency in Bungoma County. Fully tuned in, and that's where Waholi Dason is tuned in from this morning. Paul Kinyanju is tuned in from Laikipia on the equator and says, wonderful morning. Enoch Langat tuned in as well. Ainley Steve tuned in this morning from Mombasa, Nyali, and listening. Robin Bogo also tuned in from Mombasa. Rogers Lai tuned in from Mombasa. Lucy Wakambo's tuned in from Nakuru. And Waterman Jeffrey tuned in from Minneapolis, Hennepin County, and says, good morning, Karibu Sana, everybody.
Everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. CT, today's proverb.
Right. This one I liked.
Hey, you had to even breathe in first.
Yes,
Must be serious.
I liked it. The elephant does not limp when walking on thorns.
When does it limp?
You do know that that is a question that is best responded to if you ask the elephant.
Ask Matilda.
The wearer of the shoe is the one who knows.
Where it pinches.
No, where he bought it.
Oh.
Where he got it from. Maybe they didn't buy it. Yes. The elephant does not limp when walking on thorns.
The elephant does not limp when walking on thorns. Good one. A good one, a good one, a good one. So let's take a look at the headlines then. Return of the Giants, best of the best. Main headlines. The Standard says, Kapsabet boys, Kenya High and the Lions outshine other academic giants to emerge top 3 nationally as public schools post stellar performance over their private counterparts in the 2020 KCSE exam, impacted by COVID-19 pandemic. The Nation says with a dominant presence in the ranking of the top 15 candidates countrywide, Kenya High School leads the KCSE charts as newcomers Moranga High and Angorosare spring a surprise on some of the traditional giants who miss out from the list of stellar performers this time round?
Well, you see, giants during what period of time? The schools that are being mentioned have been giants at some point or the other. It's just that in recent memory, one may not even understand, but they were giants. Yes, they were the schools that one went to. They were the preferred schools. They were the schools that more or less gave you a guarantee that if you attended those particular institutions, the likelihood of you doing well was extremely high. And there was competition to get to some of those schools.
Like which one? Muranga High?
Muranga High has always been a good school. Agorosari has always been a good school.
Well, yeah.
That's why I said history.
Yeah. Muranga High has been a good school, yeah. But it hasn't been higher than, the other national schools of those days.
Remember, it may not have been, but if you were to look individually, I don't have the statistics of students who went to that school and what they did later on as going to university and what have you. Oh, they did very well.
That's okay.
Comparatively so.
That's okay. That's true. But the issue here is the top students coming from these schools. So how many students, for example, have come from Kenya High this time, and how many students have come from Alliance Girls this time? How many, if you compare with the past? How many students have come from Muranga High this time? How many have come from...
Actually, you've gotten to the heart of the matter, because when you're talking about performance, what really are we discussing here?
There is.
Are we discussing the ranking? Are we discussing the rating? Are we discussing the possibility that the exams give you a 360 feedback on what the capacity of the students are? What are you discussing? And are you also looking at what it means to have a system like this? Because those of us who are my ilk and my age, because we were ranked throughout our lives, you get into the workplace, that is the method that you're accustomed to. You believe people should be ranked, and you say, no, we want to know who's number one. We want to know who's number two. Okay? We want to know which division you are in. Were you in division 1, 2, 3, 4, or the other one, Z? You see, these are things you want to understand. But all these things were intended to give you a picture, a semblance of how people performed. But did it take into consideration, that's why I use 360? Everything that ought to be considered when you're determining the net performance of a person. I'm raising this question because, ask yourself, we are comparing national schools with what were previously provincial schools. National schools, by their very existence, took the best students, those who performed the best throughout the country. That's what they did, best. So they are expected to also perform the best at the end of 4 years or at the end of 6 years. After all, they got the best.
Which is why these headlines are basically focusing on that. All right? So among your peers... Now you compete amongst your peers, the alliances, the alliance and alliance girls, the mangus, the starehes. You compete amongst yourselves. So who is doing what and who is doing how? So when you see now a school that is among those that were then provincial schools coming up to the top, then it raises the question, so what happened to starehe? What happened to?
Okay.
You see, that's why the question starts coming in. How come we are not seeing very many starehe boys in any of this? How come we have seen the emergence of, look at the top students was from Muranga High, the second top Agorosare, the third Kenya High, fourth is where we're seeing Alliance, then Kenya High, then Alliance, and Kapsabet boys, Maranda, Kenya High, Machakos girls, all right? So the peers of Kitambo, and that's why they're being called the academic giants of days gone by. There's a question now being asked about them. They've been challenged.
One of the things that was a constant, again, we are delving back into history. Schools had a definite size number. Classroom, 40 students, etc., etc., etc.
Yes.
Okay? This thing of you're admitted, but you come with your own desk and chair didn't exist in those days. Okay? You almost need to come with your own teacher. Okay? So, when you look at performance, let us say, a school like, let's give the example. We're talking of Starehe. Let's give an example of Starehe.
Yes.
Let's say, for instance, or Jamhuri High. Jamhuri High has 6 streams. Okay? Muranga has 3 streams. I'm giving as an example. These are not actual figures. Agorosare has 4 streams. Now, if you simply look at just the numbers of the students in that school and you rank them, you will find perhaps that another school whom you do not know of, XYZ secondary school, that was a Harambee school that became a government school, may perform better because they have fewer students. Okay? So the aggregation of these things favor them. Whereas the school with a larger population has that problem of dealing with this large variety of students. All I'm saying is this, it is good to rank, but it is also useful to take into consideration other factors that you ought to also look at when you're looking at performance. Yes. And even if you've looked at them and you don't publish them, then people don't know. But you need to state it. Because these government schools that we speak of, especially what we refer to as national schools, apart from the advantage of them bigger schools, they had better facilities. Infinitely better facilities. There are schools that had even better facilities than some colleges. School.
Yep.
So, someone who goes to that particular school, do you see the advantage? Let me give you an example of, say, the science subjects. There are schools where, when you went for science practicals, you took turns. There aren't enough Bunsen burners and pipettes and what have you. There are schools, every child.
Everybody had one.
There are even extras. Everyone has one. Now, you see, already there's a disparity. So these are things that must always be stated and spoken of when you're considering what, because this, to me, is not rating, this is ranking.
No, but okay. This is not really ranking of the schools. It's just looking at where the students have come from.
Eric is ranking. You know why it's ranking? You and I may talk about it and look at the variables involved. Tell me about someone reading this thing. What are they telling you? Kenya High is a good school. They have done very well.
So I need to then consider taking my
child
there.
just cleared standard 8 and I'm looking, okay.
Where are they good?
Moranga is a very good.
Very good. Precisely.
Kapsabet boys. Definitely need to think about that.
But you see, that's the thing. It's because the environment there has actually produced the top student. And so you want your child also to go there.
You see.
No, we have not ranked Moranga High. When it comes to the meaning, averaging and all, looking at the mean score, Moranga High does not score among the top schools.
It doesn't. But you see, who is going to care? The optics. Now, who is going to... The optics. Why do you think it is private schools make such a big hoo-ha about these things?
Yes.
Because they understand the thinking behind it and the psychology. Parents look and say, this is a school where people do well. There are schools that aren't mentioned, like say, Strathmore. Students do very well in those schools. But they'll say it's a private school.
Yes.
There's Sunshine. And there are many, many others. But, again, we are stuck.
Now that you've brought it up, yes, there are days, there are years gone by when you'd see, among the top 10 students, you'd see Starehe, Strathmore, Sunshine. This time,
that is why
Muranga, Agorosare, that's what we're talking about. So those giants are no longer producing the top students in a national exam.
No, those giants are being presented as not producing the top students. And yet, if you look at the cutoff point of the students we consider the top students in this country, you'll find they feature very, very well. How many? We are looking at what, 15? 15? We are
Look
out
at the top
of
15. Show me Strathmore.
Eric. Eric, the reason why I'm mentioning these schools, I am trying to tell you that I went even beyond just secondary schools. I started thinking of tertiary education and the ranking that, say, institutions of higher learning achieve throughout. And usually you are told what is looked at when they want to rank these particular institutions.
Okay, we'll have a conversation about ranking. Because I think you're not getting my point, but let's have that conversation about it.
I'm getting it all right.
You're running away from it.
I want you to get my
28 minutes to 7 o'clock. Time for us to take a look at traffic.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
It's time to answer questions that are worthwhile. The Big Quiz Show is here. Register to play from the comfort of your home by SMSing the word JOIN to 23774. Then watch the live show on KTN every Sunday from 8 p.m. where you could have a chance to win a melee. The fastest and most accurate answers are guaranteed to win. The Big Quiz Show, Sundays at 8 p.m. only on KTN.
as the Kenyans are roared into the home straight here. 4 Kenyan queens have lit up this balmy Bahamian night.
It's where the rivalry is unmatched, where the soul meets the track, where the great are distinguished from the good. An arena where the records are broken.
A new world record. It's not just been beaten, it's been obliterated.
A stage where the legends are born. For Team Kenya, the Olympics is more than just a sport. It is our tradition. It's an event that has put Kenya on the roadmap. The Standard Group lets you watch every minute and every action live in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, because we live for Team Kenya. We live for the game. At Standard Group.
All right, there's already significant madness taking place on the Eastern Bypass this morning. If you don't have to use that route, please do not. The traffic is crazy, it's drizzling, and getting your way out is not going to happen anytime soon. So Eastern Bypass, do not use that. If you can avoid it, please do. All right, let's look at other parts. Mombasa Road, still flooded in some parts. People are going to have to be very careful using those routes today. It's already jam-packed all the way from Cabanas out towards General Motors. It is not happening this morning, guys. Moving very, very slowly. All right, let's look. Coming out of Thika Road, also slow getting towards the Pangani underpass. Coming from Kiambu Road has already begun to pile up. Today's day 2 of going back to school. Some of the schools have opened today. So the traffic that was there yesterday, there's some that is being added to it today. So let's keep an eye on how things are going to open up. In about half an hour or so, when we've entered the traffic hour proper, we'll have a look. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127. Let's try and keep things moving and be careful this morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So, other headlines?
All right. So, it's an interesting story that has come here from Bensouda. And it's in the Standard, but let's look into the details of it. And she has said, and what the headline says is, Big Man Ruto gave witnesses kickbacks. Witnesses who recanted their evidence against Deputy President William Ruto and radio journalist Joshua Arap Sang at the International Criminal Court were offered kickbacks of between 500,000 shillings and 2 million. In fresh court filings, ICC prosecutor Fatu Bensouda claims that witnesses admitted meeting lawyer Paul Gisheru and were offered money to withdraw as prosecution witnesses, and some relocated from their homes. The prosecutor claims there was a ranking process that determined how much one was to be paid. Ranking. Gisheru surrendered to the ICC last year after an arrest warrant issued by the Hague-based court over claims of witness interference. According to Bensouda, in the latest claims in the court papers, it is unsurprising since the modus operandi of Gisheru and his associates was to leverage the intermediaries' knowledge of prosecution witnesses to target and corruptly influence them. Then, in turn, these corrupted witnesses were used to target other witnesses known to them. The inevitable result is that many of the targeted witnesses knew each other. So according to Bensouda, one witness, P0274, narrated that Gisheru informed them that they needed to reach out and buy everyone involved to stop assisting the ICC. And he told this witness that they needed to reach everyone as the big man. And this is what the big man, Ruto, wanted. And he wanted no stone left unturned. So in her filings, she's replying to lawyer Gisheru, who terms her evidence as hearsay.
Is that rumors? You're spreading rumors.
Yeah, it's not founded in any kind of evidence. It's what
And then
he
she comes
say.
out and says, here is a witness who
says
the witness says.
So she's going to pursue this through looking at another angle to pursue all of this.
So just looking at another angle, this matter never really was laid to rest. No, it was just given a bit of breathing space.
Sure, but she had to. I think the onus, the legal onus, then was on her to bring out something that was more sound, because there was nothing really fetching that she could use to then go to trial.
It's not even that. If you look at the trajectory,
I mean, she said it. She said that there was nothing that she could hold on to, and that's why she was releasing it at that time.
Ask yourself, here you are, you have embarked on a case and you believe you have evidence and you have witnesses. And they just disappear one by one by one by one by one by one. I mean, you can see the direction that the rain is taking. You stop and say, okay, this one, I don't think I'm going to go very far with this. So let's just put a halt to it. You know, one of the things that I have found interesting with some of these international cases is that you may assume that 5 years down the line is over. Man, these things, whoa. 20 years down the line.
It has not gone away. I mean,
it rears its head.
Absolutely. Look at the gentleman that we saw, the Ugandan former child soldier who was convicted last week. His trial has been on for the last 7 years. And before that, he had not even been arrested 10, 15 years before. So, I mean, just like you say, 20 years later, your fate comes to knock on your door.
My friend, the Balkan states, you're talking about Bosnia.
Yugoslavia.
There are people who were never touched, never talked about. Evidence was gathered last year. Suddenly, please come.
Let's have a chat.
Let's have a little chat about the things that you did. And it wasn't yesterday. We know when this problem arose.
Yes.
These things never go away. They never go away. You may think they do, but they don't.
Let's see how far the prosecutor, the ICC prosecutor, pushes this case. Because the case is against the lawyer, Paul Gicheru.
Yes.
With the accusation of tampering with witnesses. And now she brings in and says that even Gicheru himself was acting on behalf of his client there, the boss, the big man. So,
Eric, if I know you watch movies. In the days when I used to like watching gangster movies, especially the old gangsters, one of the things that seemed a common theme in these movies, they could not get these gangsters on what they were doing, racketeering, murdering people and all that. So they'd look for things like tax evasion.
On their legitimate business.
Yes, something that ordinarily you wouldn't think of, because anything else, even the things that you think you know that they're doing. So in this same way, even as we're talking about Gicheru, Gicheru is small fish. It's not him they're interested in. It is the connection that he has. That's the real interest.
They're still going for the bigger one.
Yes,
That's what I was saying. It's another route for her to get where she wanted to get the first time. Like you said, she had to take a step back because everything that she tried to grasp onto just was not holding. So this is another way. As they say, many ways to skin a cat. And this is another way that she's going to try. It's clear that this is another route that she's going to try.
Isn't it fascinating about the way we on this particular planet describe things? Here we're talking about elephants walking on thorns and not feeling the pinch, so to speak. And here are people telling us how there are many ways of skinning a cat. As an African, would you even let that thought go through your mind?
What, skinning a cat?
Skinning a cat. Why would you want to skin a cat?
To what end? You know, really, why?
Another one, give a dog a bad name. Why would you want to give a dog a bad name? It already has a bad name.
Just stone the dog. Kick the
Or starve it.
Wow.
See?
Animal lovers have no place here. Okay.
It's not animal lovers. It's the reality of how it is we relate to other members of this particular planet.
The animal kingdom. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, another story.
Yes.
The police and NHIF bicker over 200 million shillings. All right. A parliamentary committee has summoned the management of the National Hospital Insurance Fund to explain why it has not refunded 200 million shillings to medical covers for the police to the Interior Ministry as required by law. The PAC of the National Assembly wants the NHIF Chief Executive Peter Kamunyo to explain why it is taking long to have the money refunded. The delays in paying the refund was flagged by the Auditor General Nancy Kadhongut in her report on the accounts of the Interior Ministry for 2018-2019. And while appearing before the committee yesterday over the ministry's audit queries for the period under review, Karanja Kibicho, who is the Internal Ministry PS, said that efforts to have the money recovered from NHIF had hit a brick wall. This forced the PAC chairman, Opio Wandanyi, to order that Dr. Kamunyu appears before the committee without fail and tell them, where's this money? Pay it up.
Semma.
Now.
Semma, where the money is. Okay.
They even said that they're going to withhold further payment of insurance premiums to NHIF until this 2 million shillings is paid.
There was a story in the papers yesterday about a family that was up in arms. They were really, really angry with the Kenyatta National Hospital.
Yes.
And this is because there's a lady who had been admitted to KNH, and when she went there, the records did not show like she had any next of kin, known next of kin. The lady died while undergoing treatment. KNH then proceeded to facilitate her burial. Family appears later. Now, the Kenyatta National Hospital is defending its decision to bury in an unmarked grave the woman who died in their facility without the knowledge of her family. As a family of Sabenzia Chepkesis Kilong yesterday moved to court to seek exhumation orders, an autopsy to confirm the cause of death, as well as a permit to rebury their kin in their home in Dalu location, Bungoma County. In a statement, KNH Chief Executive Dr. Evans Kamuri said the facility had followed all the rules while disposing of Ms. Kilong's body 4 months after her death on December 28, 2020. The Public Health Act, the Ministry of Health Guidelines, and the KNH Farewell Home Policy and Productive Manual provide for burial of unclaimed bodies 21 days from time of death. In this particular case, the body stayed unclaimed at the funeral home for 4 months and was released for burial on the 27th of April. This is according to the KNH CEO. While condoling with the family, Dr. Kamuri said the hospital was open to scrutiny. So here is a case where she died, she stayed in the funeral home for 4 months. After she gets buried is when the family appears to say, wait a minute, how did she die? When did she die?
They didn't know she was
How
in
did you
hospital.
bury her? Right? So all that time they didn't know. So where would you place a finger here? Would you say, all right, KNH, do you follow all due process? What does the process require?
In terms
So
of
yes, you
locating
have
her
somebody.
family.
You have somebody who is unidentified. So what do? Do you place advertisements saying we have somebody who looks like this in our facility? Any known relatives, please come forward. What do you do in an effort to identify the person? Or do you just sit back and say, let their relatives come looking for them?
I don't know. There are many circumstances or reasons as to why somebody will be in hospital for a period of time. The next of kin or family members had not come to see them or were unaware that they were in hospital. And then after that, she'd been buried. And then 4 months later is when now they come and start asking questions.
A month later.
A month later. So she'd been in hospital for...
She'd been in hospital. She died in December. She was buried on the 27th of April.
Is it?
This is what I'm saying. So
she was
after
in the
she
morgue for 4 months.
Yeah, so this is what I'm saying. So she's been buried, and then after, because we're talking about now 5 months. You're in hospital for a month, then you've been buried. You've been buried 4 months.
No, she was buried last month, 27th.
Okay, so she was in the morgue for
she was
4
in the morgue
months.
for 4 months.
And even then, no family member came to look, to ask.
We actually don't know.
This is what I'm saying. We are not aware of the circumstances. We don't know the reasons as to why this happened. We don't know if family members actually came to ask. We don't know if they were looking for her in a different part of the country. We do not know. We don't have the details of it as to why. So, but you want to ask yourself that you would think, did the hospital, when she was in hospital, admitted in hospital, did they reach out to find out who her next of kin was, who were her family members when she died? Because we also know that when a patient dies and nobody has come, people in hospital, the hospital staff are actually supposed to try and find out who the family members are so that they can, number one, hand over and then put their records in order.
Now, the person has come in. When they are being admitted, they have no known next of kin. They have not indicated their next of kin. Okay? The person dies. Nobody
do you do?
comes to say that I am looking for so-and-so.
Eric, are the
this
circumstances
facility.
under which this lady was admitted, is it indicated?
Yeah, we don't know. Was she comatose?
Yes.
Was
she
she
able,
able to speak?
give details?
Yeah, she admitted herself to hospital. So the family claims that they have information that the lady, Ms. Killig, had information that had named her sister-in-law Edith Berra as her next of kin. That also tells you something. The family claims that she had named a sister-in-law as next of kin. None of them. So there's a possibility that A, there's an issue between the person and that they are close members of their family. They go to hospital. They're asked for next of kin. They don't put you as a next of kin anywhere. They die. Okay? And that's it. All you know is that this so-and-so came here, said she's so-and-so. We don't know anybody who could come and claim this body. Then what?
You bury her.
Such, every time I read about such a case, the thing that leaps up and talks to me or hits me in the face is that this family had issues.
Yep.
Because for her to call her sister-in-law
As next of kin.
and
That's
her
what they
brother,
claim.
that's what they claim. And maybe the brother is not dead. We don't know.
There's so much we don't know.
Exactly. It could be that, because you would say, okay, if you can call the sister-in-law, then why don't you call the brother? Maybe the brother is not there. Maybe her parents. Because then who are the family members now who are complaining
I
later?
say there's a problem. Huh? Even, let's say, you admit yourself into hospital thinking you are just not feeling well. And then it escalates.
What goes out? People come visit you.
Thank you. Somebody
Nobody
has
came
to know.
visit you. Nobody came to
For a
find
month.
out. So at no point do nurses know that this person was being visited by so
Yeah,
and so.
this person used
or
to come.
so and so has come asking. So huyu mgonjwa alikuwa hapa ako wapi? So you know that this.
This is a grown-up. Huh? A child, you can say, okay, who are your folks? It becomes a bit hazy. But a grown-up, you ask questions. Don't they have friends? Don't they have neighbors?
Who would look for them if they were missing for a month?
All those questions have to be asked.
Yeah.
And from that article, these questions are not
being
answered.
asked.
They're not even being answered. They're not being responded to. So I will wait to see how this story unfolds.
Let's see how it unfolds. Indeed. Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. Have you checked it out today or lately? There are many jobs that have been advertised there, and they're advertised on a daily basis. Go and subscribe for job alerts. And you can also get some career tips here and there on how to maybe spruce up your CV, what to look out for in a job interview, how to present yourself in a job interview. Some of the jobs that have been advertised today: sales team lead, digital marketing officer for leather and textile bags, sales team leader, leather and textile bags, sales analyst, finance and information management intern, a production designer, many other jobs, research assistant, nursing officer, senior artist, human resource management assistant. All these and more, jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. Good morning.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
"24 teams, 12 host cities, 6 groups, all battling for one trophy. The long-awaited Euro 2020 is here at last upon us. The fans might not be within touching distance,
Good cross, Giroud attacks it and scores and runs ahead.
but the atmosphere will only get to a fever pitch. From the 11th of June to the 11th of July, catch the tackles, the goals, and all your favorite football stars as the elite European nations go head-to-head. The Standard Group brings you the UEFA Euro 2020 tournament live across our channel.
Oh, what a wonderful goal!
As the official UEFA Euro 2020 free-to-air broadcast partner in Kenya, because we live for the game. And that's why at Standard Group, sports lives here.
Eight minutes to 7.
Okay.
All right. All eyes on me.
Yes.
The Standard, page 23.
Yes.
Counties. This particular headline caught my attention. Remember, there's been this debate regarding when and if and how people who want to vie for certain political positions should actually resign, not resign, stay in office until the fateful day of the actual elections. Well, according to a High Court verdict, this report on page 23 by Kamau Mudhoni seems to indicate that this matter has been settled. All right? According to the High Court verdict, this was by the High Court Judge Anthony Mrima. He ruled that the law does not require the president, governors, MPs and MCAs to be out of office until the second Tuesday of every 5th year.
Yep.
Let me simplify it. Okay. He also said that in view of the state and public officers, in view of this, they should resign. Let me give you the days. 14 days. Okay. Meaning, you don't really need to resign until the whistle point is when it is announced by the IEBC that on this date we're going to have the election. From that particular day, you then count. This is according to the judge. Now, unfortunately, there are matters that these are matters that I think some people are not going to take lying down.
I think it provides some good clarity, because what he's saying, Justice Mrima, is if you've been elected by the people, right, and you want to vie for a different office, you don't have to resign from that post that you've been given by the electorate.
No, you don't.
Wait until the day of the election, just the same way MPs who are vying for to retain their seat don't need to resign to campaign again. So you stay elected until the election takes place, vie for whatever seat you want to vie for, and go on.
Yes.
And then he says, so other state officers, if you work in the public service and you'd like to now move from public service and join politics, 14 days before the election, resign.
Yes.
This whole issue of 6 months, where did it come from then?
There are things which fall under the category of tradition. Somebody says it, and because we're used to roadside declarations, you think it is a law. And here, he is simply giving his opinion based on his understanding of the law.
Many MPs then and MCAs. Remember there was a Gatundu North MP.
Yes.
Ms. Wanjiko Kibe, who was an MCA in the last government, and then she vied for MP. And when the petitioner went to court, said, this person should have resigned much earlier from being an MCA.
In order to then run for the seat.
Yes, and the courts had agreed with her.
Yes.
With the petitioner. Now this one actually throws in a whole new spanner.
It does. It does. In fact, the argument that they had was that this case should be dismissed, this particular case that has been ruled on. That's what they said, it should be dismissed, and that it had no merit. Unfortunately, their argument again was that it had been determined. Why are we hashing this issue? It didn't involve one person. Actually, it involved quite a number of people. Yes. People who it was felt should not have the jobs that they have because they hadn't resigned on time.
They hadn't resigned.
Now, this one lays it to rest. Until and unless it
Professor Anyang' Nyong'o was a senator. He did not resign. He went and vied for governor.
Yes.
His was on the balance.
Yes.
Many others.
I mean, there were quite a number.
Yeah. Susan Kihika was a speaker of the County Assembly of Nakuru.
Did not resign.
She had not resigned before she...
Kakamega Senator, Cleophas Malala, same. Like keep your women's rep, same.
Story.
Justice Mrima is making headlines every new day.
You know, the beauty of this constitution is when you see it being operationalized.
Yes.
Because this is now a clear indication of what we can refer to as independence. The guy looks at the law and says, folks, I understand the sentiment, but this is what the law says. And
we shall follow the law.
This is what we're going
My
to
understanding of the law,
Yes.
this is what should happen.
Yes.
Okay.
And even the logic behind it, does it not make sense?
That logic makes sense, just the same way. I'm just thinking, the other day when the other contrary ruling was actually made, the logic made sense. So,
this is the beauty of the law.
it made sense. Like,
It makes sense
should have
today.
resigned.
Does it make sense
Yes,
tomorrow?
Or it makes more sense. It made sense, but this one also makes
Yeah,
sense.
this one makes more sense.
Two things can make sense.
Yes,
That
they
can be
can.
of contrary or opposing views.
But they both make
But
sense.
they make sense.
Yeah.
All right. What doesn't make sense for a couple of fellows yesterday? United Millers bosses charged with 79.4 million shillings fraud case. 3 directors of the United Millers Limited were yesterday charged before a Nairobi court with conspiracy to defraud a supply of 79.4 million shillings. Sunil Nashi Shah, Kamal Punja Shah, and Magnesh Kumar Verma appeared before the Milimani Chief Magistrate Francis Andani and denied 6 counts, including conspiracy to defraud, uttering a false document, conspiracy to defeat the cause of justice, and forgery. The trio were to appear in court last week together with Henry Munyoki Kavita, but they claimed they were unwell, all three at the same time. Kavita denied the charges and was released after depositing a cash bail of 400,000 shillings. The four are accused of claiming that United Millers had lost business after a miller failed to supply sugar as agreed. They're also accused of presenting forged local purchase orders. The court heard that the intent to defraud Kotecha and Sons of 79.4 million. They falsely pretended to have lost business after the supplier reportedly failed to supply sugar to United Millers on the 2nd of April 2015. 2015. It's 2021. Like you said, it'll catch up with you.
These
Yes,
are those
it does.
cases where you're
Yes,
like,
it
okay,
does.
so what has happened that has led to this? These are two entities, and they're accusing each other of some serious case involving.
One, clearly millers. The others have been merchants in grain for the longest
time.
possible
Yes.
time. And it's clear for this to happen, it means they've been doing business
They've been
together.
doing
Together.
business. But the time they're bringing each other to court and saying you've defrauded me close to 80 million shillings, there's a big breakdown here.
And you know what is interesting about this case? Both these individuals that you're hearing about come from Kisumu. They do.
It's families that know each other.
They know each other very well.
It's not individuals, it's basically
No,
families.
they know
right?
each other very well.
As I'm saying, there's a big and deep story
Yes.
about them and what's happening. Keep it right here. Conversations continue into the next hour. So we ask ourselves in the next hour, is it okay to rank schools? Or should we just remain with the way NEC has decided? We are not going to tell you which school performed best this year in the exams. Or should we go back to those days when we say, all right, yes, the best student may have come from Muranga, but the best school was Kenya High. Good morning. It's 7 a.m. Time for the news.
I'm Dennis Aseto. Education CS has announced that there will be 5 examinations this year, while candidates for the 2021 KCSE and Kenya Certificate of Primary Education exams will sit for their papers in March next year. He noted that plans for next year's examinations are ongoing with the hope that whoever will be in charge will have it easy moving forward.
In December 2022, we will administer another examination. Hopefully, I will not be there, but we shall have planned for everything. That whoever is going to take over from us should have a seamless effort. We had tried to avoid this, but I think since it is one country, and we must remember that the world is a stage, and when you are given a job, you don't get attached to it. You just do what you have to do and ensure that when you leave, whoever takes over can proceed on from there.
The number of girls who sat the exams after delivery has gone up in 2019 KCSE examinations. Education CS George Magoa says this shows that the long school closure due to COVID-19 may have driven learners into many temptations at a time most households are facing numerous challenges.
As I celebrate, I also want to castigate our parents in the most severe terms possible. That our bodies, which we were given by God through His mercy and grace, are temples of the Holy Spirit. And when the hormones are starting to misbehave in your child, by that time you should have told your child how to control the body.
A total of 1,122 patients are currently admitted in various health facilities across the country with COVID-19, with 4,783 on home-based isolation and care. The intensive care unit has 134 patients, 23 of whom are on ventilatory support and 85 on supplemental oxygen. Another 89 patients require supplemental oxygen, 83 of whom are in general wards and 6 in high-dependency units. The court has issued a warrant of arrest against Golden Scape Greenhouse CEO Peter Wangai after he failed to appear in court. Wangai was charged with defrauding Kenyans through fake greenhouse deals and was released on a 2 million shillings cash bail. Wangai was arrested on March last year after several people filed complaints with the Directorate of Criminal Investigations accusing the businessman of defrauding them their hard-earned money. 2 directors of Kisumu United Millers have been charged with conspiring to defraud a company over 79 million shillings through forged court documents. Sunil Shah and Kamal Shah pleaded not guilty to the charges of conspiracy to defraud and presenting fake documents in court in support of their case against Kotecha and Sons Limited. The duo and several others are alleged to have lied to have lost business as United Millers Limited to their clients by failure to supply sugar. A Nairobi court has denied former rugby player Alex Olaba bail application, ordering that he remain in custody until a gang rape case against him is heard and determined. The court stated that in its ruling on Monday that interfering with witnesses is not something to be taken lightly. Olaba pleaded not guilty to conspiracy to murder charges in the same court last week. That's your Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
All right, so there's a lot of traffic this morning everywhere you look, guys. Thika Road coming into the city, that's already jam-packed. The service lanes are offering some good reprieve this morning, so you want to try and use those. Sticking onto the main highway is going to take you a minute, but in this case, I think we all have to be patient. On Mombasa Road, the parts where it was flooded before, that was still an issue. And so traffic is moving considerably slow. It's going to take hours to get through this one today, guys. And the rain is still coming down on some parts of Mombasa Road, so we have to watch out for this one. The Eastern Bypass, do not attempt to get on the Eastern Bypass right now if you already have not. Use another route. Stick on Mombasa Road at this point because it is not moving. It's jam-packed and it's coming down in sheets as far as the rain is concerned. So stick where you are for now. Let's look at Jogo Road. Getting into, or rather onto Landis Road is not too bad. It's moving very slowly, but we're not at bumper to bumper just yet. Let's keep an eye on things, guys. We're now in the middle of traffic hour proper. Let's have a look in about half hour to see how that has changed. You're stuck somewhere? Let us know. We'll see how to get you out. Or send alternatives to SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. 5.5 minutes
after 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the second hour of the show. We begin the conversation with the day's proverb.
The elephant does not limp when walking on thorns.
The elephant does not limp when walking on thorns.
Mm-hmm.
And you say you particularly liked this one.
I did. Why I liked it, you see, I was thinking, I alluded to it in an earlier conversation. I was thinking of how it is the proverbs that are associated with a certain part of the world bear, should we say, it gives you a very, very clear picture of the environment in which this particular proverb emanates from. Okay? When you hear of our African proverbs, you don't find it surprising when you hear of an anthill. You don't find it surprising when you hear a leopard mentioned. I'm certain that if you look at other African communities, there will be very, very, very clear mentions of the geographical terrain and key elements in it that are specific to that particular area. Okay? Remember we talked about skinning the cat? Mm-hmm. You see, we don't consider a cat to be a wild animal. Neither do we consider that a cat should be skinned. However, you can understand the thinking behind it. Yes. So it's within that reference that I thought, this is interesting. Because the way an elephant walks, an elephant just seems to walk through. There's no detour. It just walks. And if something happens to be in its path, it's just trampled on and it continues.
Plus, they have extremely thick skin. So something like a thorn would not be able to pierce through its skin. And I think, for me, I look at it like the elephant knows the armor or the arsenal that it has. So something like a thorn will not affect it. True. So it keeps going.
But you also don't see an elephant heading into a forest and just bumping into trees. No. The trees, those are used for massage and other such soothing practices. You'll find it rubbing against a tree, doing this. But all I'm saying is, the imagery I found interesting.
Yes. Completely.
I did.
That's true. That's true. So let's have a conversation about yesterday's KCSE results. And as we do that, there's a young man who was heading to class one fine morning, and he asked his father to get in touch with us and tell us to wish him all the best in the exams. Remember that conversation?
Yes.
Yes, and we did.
The gentleman was called Ayton Adunga. The father says Ayton has asked the father to let us know that he performed exceptionally well. He got a B.
Well
Excellent,
done,
well
chap.
done.
Ayton Adunga. This is very good news. Congratulations to Ayton. He did very well. He was in a Consolata school, apparently. And he's one of our listeners in the Situation Room. You see, we produce, we should be ranked
Okay.
among the schools.
Okay.
Okay. So yesterday, after the results were released, the education CS basically just mentioned. So this was the trend that we noticed. This is how the boys performed. This is how the girls performed. This is how they performed per subject. This is how the mean grade compares to the previous years. And then he went ahead now to say the ones who performed the best, the ones who scored the highest marks, were so and so from this school, so and so from the other school. And he said now you can get the rest of the results online or going to the schools. What did Kenyans do? Kenyans being Kenyans. Get in touch with your school, find out, now the job of the schoolmasters, headmasters and principals was to sit down and look at at all the scores that they've received and look at the main score and tabulate and see how have we performed compared to the previous year. How many A's did we get this year compared to last year? How many A minuses? How many B plus? How many B's? How many B minus? C plus? C minus? D plus? D? All the way to E. And with that, now you say our school's mean score was this, and it's an improvement, and the improvement ranking from the previous year is this and the other. Then people now start looking at how many top students did we get from this particular school. Then let's start ranking schools. So we started seeing lists going around on social media, the top 100 schools in this year's KCSE. And they went round to the point that the Kenya National Examinations Council got wind of that, and they decided to send out a tweet and said the Examinations Council wishes to advise the public to ignore lists circulating in social media purported to be genuine ranking of KCSE 2020 exam results. The council has not ranked schools in the results released today. All those lists are therefore fake. Basically, what National Examinations Council is saying is we are not ranking schools. We are not ranking. We have basically just released the results of students. What we did is we told you the top 10 students. We did not go ahead and tell you the top 1,000 or top 200,000. We just told you these are the top 10. The rest of the students received their results. Brought in the conversation. If you look at the comments on that Twitter handle, and that's at Exams Council, you are seeing somebody says you are aiding the production of fake lists, yet it's easier for you to rank the schools officially. Performance measurement is vital. Since a lot of public funds are invested in these institutions, we may quibble over evaluation parameters, but not the principle. Focus, rank the schools. Somebody else says, please, then do your official ranking and post it. This will avoid these black market rankings. And by your ranking, there is no harm because in any case, the top student schools are also given. So spare us these fakes by doing the needful. Give us a ranking of the schools. Somebody else says, act and rank accordingly. There's absolutely no harm in exam ranking. In any case, the Kenya National Examinations Council has already ranked candidates. Thank you for the clarification. On that note, it's unnecessary to continue rating learners and institutions. It'll demotivate them. Brings back that whole conversation of why ranking stops. In 2014, the then Education Cabinet Secretary, who is now an ambassador, Professor Jacob Kaimenyi, said, we are abolishing ranking of schools. And he gave a number of reasons. He actually listed them out and said there are 14 reasons I'll give you for this. Professor Jacob Kaimenyi is an educationist. He had worked in the universities and then he had been promoted to head the Ministry of Education. He said, institutions are interested in the product, not the process. Teachers are only interested in main score, not the resources. Some schools use unethical methods to appear in the merit list. They want to appear the best or on the top. This leads to untold suffering to parents and children. For instance, weak students are forced to repeat so that a school can attain a high mean score. Others are even sent to a different examination center so that you don't interfere with our main score because we want to appear ranking high. Ranking creates unnecessary competition among schools, leading to examination irregularities. It's not fair to compare institutions that have different resources, i.e. infrastructure. Some schools maintain a small number of children so that they can attain a high mean score. Some schools have dropped non-examination results. Ranking leads to production of poorly educated children. Children are only taught to cram so that they can pass the exam, so that the school is ranked high, so that then the school attracts the best and can charge whatever amount of fees it wants to charge. I'm adding all those ones. Ranking affects the morale of teachers in poorly performing schools. It leads to stigmatization. Politicians have started politicizing rankings. Schools engage in extra coaching. Students are forced to learn until midnight. For all these reasons, for what we have observed and seen, when we came up with a ranking of schools in KCPE, in KCSE, we saw the focus now of the heads of those schools was focusing on our mean so that we can be among the top. We can say we are the best in this county. We are the best in this sub-county. We are the best in the country. And that comes with its own benefits. However, the people who end up suffering are the students and the teachers. Because as a community of teachers, you have taught and then you have dropped. You were number 3 last year. You've gone to number 6 this year. As a teacher, you don't even know where to walk. You guys are failed. As students, you also are forced to sit up until midnight if it's a boarding school, just so that we get the ranking. Students are also moved from a school. This one, the way they are performing, we are not admitting them to Form 4. Please, parent, look for another school, this one. The way they've been performing, we have told you many times, we've called you here for teacher and parent meetings. We have talked to you about the performance of your child. They are not improving. We are not admitting them to Form 4. Even if they are here, they are not registering as their exam center.
So you're saying that...
And this happened.
So we're saying that these conferences then between parents and teachers is not necessarily for the betterment of that child, but what they're really looking at in the background is the overall performance of the school. They're not interested in getting this child or this learner to actually grasp everything that is being taught, but they're really looking at, look, if you don't get it together, you're leaving a taint on the school, and this would essentially affect the ranking.
You're affecting the results of everybody else. The performance of everybody else is going to be dragged down by this lazy child of yours.
You see, ask yourself a simple question. What are the objectives of the schools that we're speaking of? You see, this thinking also pervades the field of commerce and industry. It's actually forced ranking, if you can call it that, because what you're doing is you have a set of objectives that you want to meet. And as far as you're concerned, you're basing performance, class performance on this. The CBC, when you think of trying to introduce a new educational system that seems to try and look at a child's ability and then give them an opportunity to branch off into where they are best suited, that is the sort of system that enables you to actually grow a child, not just force them into, because this one here, the bottleneck, look at the thinking. What are the objectives? You do well in Grade 7, you get to a good school in Form 4. You do well, you go to university, you get a good course. You get a good course.
You get a good job.
Yes. Not just good job, you earn a lot of money.
Yes.
It's how it works, okay? And the family is happy. The end result is good job equals money, and the family's problems will be sorted out. Now, that is the thinking. If you look at the commercial world, the industrial world, this is applied all the time. You look at management objectives, revenue-based. If you happen to be in a team and you don't seem to produce revenue, heck, you're gone.
So are you saying that since it happens, across board, it happens in the corporate sector, it happens in the sporting world, it happens in big business, it happens in the service industry.
Even Forbes ranks
businesses
according to their wealth,
ranks individuals, ranks businesses, ranks corporates, ranks countries. Why can't we rank schools?
What are you talking about? This work that we do here, it is rated.
So, if this
It's
done,
ranking.
so
What do you
what
think
you're
it is?
saying
It's ranking.
is done.